I am often asked if a superintelligence exists, as in, has it already been built somewhere in the world? The answer is yes and no. Physically, a comprehensive and fully operating artificial superintelligence, or ASI, does not exist as a whole system, or at least I haven't seen any of the telltale anomalous markers, or the unmistakable trail of trace evidence that would be left in the wake of an operating superintelligence. There is also nothing behind the scenes in advanced AI dev that would be indicative of existence. And as a superintelligence dark architect, I should see some of the traces of a finished superintelligence leaking out from the labs, or at least hidden in the funding pitches. But I don't. So they are either very good at hiding it, or it simply doesn't exist. Yet. And to be honest, people in SV are just not that good at hiding anything exciting and earth-changing. However, many of the components needed for superintelligence do already exist. Inside generative AI and deep learning systems, and inside the very soon-to-be-released artificial general intelligence systems. Components like multimodal perception, contextual classification, elemental stimuli and response functions, contextual memory, crude inference and reasoning, like problem-solving, pattern recognition, chain of thought, self-reflection, etc. And now physical action in robots that utilize all of these AI products. The path to artificial superintelligence moves from deep learning and generative AI, through artificial general intelligence, and on to superintelligence. You cannot get to superintelligence without first passing through artificial general intelligence. AGI is the progression and evolution of the foundation that resides underneath generative AI, such as neural networks and deep learning, transformers, convolutional neural nets for image and computer vision, recurrent neural nets, generative adversarial neural nets, natural language processing and LLMs, action models or LAMs for agents and robots, expert systems, data augmentation via real-world simulation, etc. The evolution of these foundations is the progression toward more contextually astute systems, or what is known as persisted deep contextual comprehension and response. This is the move from current state, generative AI, or deterministic response and stimuli, into general response and stimuli like we humans use each and every day and all day long. This involves carrying context over long-term memory and instantly comprehending and using deep cascades of context as state-dimensional change for benefit, or what is called cognitive artificial general intelligence. Of particular value is when we humans detect a variance between contextual dimensions, such as your future goals versus your current actions and the feedback loop that forms everyday life, causing you to respond in some way to a world of constantly streaming stimuli. Stimuli and response, in waves of contextual perception, over dimensions of existence. This is the essence of generalization, the comprehension and use of layers of contextual relationships and relevance to move toward any goal. We humans use deep context every day to comprehend layers of relationships and relevance between the elements we perceive and our self-aware position inside our reality as measured to our self-determined or self-selected goals as our perception moves forward in time. And while we don't get out calculators to do this, we do employ perceptions that are defined after the fact by mathematical constructs. We use these constructs, which I have documented in the latest Tales from the Dark Architecture 3, and earlier books, to give advanced AI machines like AGI a comparable level of cognition to humans, or even far better cognition on the path to superintelligence. Each state in a perceptive flow is a snapshot of reality at a perceptive singularity, which is everything we perceive in our senses and in our minds. As our reality flows forward, the state of our perception changes in measurable and anticipated ways that we then use to respond to stimuli near instantly with almost no resources, to adjust our course and optimize the attainment of our goals across all dimensions of our cognitive existence. It is this variance that is the foundation of our perceptive reality, and we classify groups of such variance into generalizations, just like we use context to classify relationships and relevance. The less dense the layers and levels of context within a perception, the more generalized the perception and the faster and deeper our cognition. In AGI architectures, we perform this with masking, factorization, normalization modification, manifolds, autoencoding, and various other generalization techniques. And this becomes the foundation of deep artificial reasoning, which includes inference, chain of thought, deduction, cogitation, reflection, judgment, abstraction, logic, etc. And to all of these, we can apply math constructs and abstraction to transform our human dimensional reality into something a machine can comprehend and use as artificial cognition. Two of the benefits of comprehending deeper levels of context are the existence of cognitive shortcuts, which optimize compute resources, and cross-dimensional perception, where we humans solve for all of the things we do not currently know. And we do so by considering all levels of relationship and relevance, over all perceptive state change, and over as many dimensions as we can comprehend, including time and context. In machines, this is theoretically unlimited, or rather limited only by access to resources. Artificial general intelligence can best be described as the most current advanced state of the art AI, with the added gift of the ability to comprehend, understand, reason, and use things that have never been seen or experienced by the system before. This is the movement of systems into artificial deep reasoning to solve their forward momentum toward one or more goals. And yes, this already exists. If a robot encounters something it has never seen before in its training, AGI permits the robot to interpret what it perceives, and the relevance of that perception to the attainment of its goal or goals. We humans do this all day, every day, and we do it near instantly with almost no resource expenditure. And we have many cognitive tricks to help us achieve this level of optimization and efficiency, with the most valuable cognitive trick being that of generalization. Currently, artificial general intelligence does exist in a very crude form. Generative AI is just one element of the public face of this innovation. But behind the scenes in the advanced labs at giant tech companies are products in development and testing that are a few years ahead of the current releases, just like any advanced production environment. AGI exists, just not in its fully comprehensive structure. We don't see these products in public yet, but they exist in some form. It's all part of the natural evolution of a development life cycle, where advanced research is involved. It's important to remember these things don't magically just appear one day. They evolve over time, and they evolve as layers of component architectures, as opposed to just suddenly popping out of thin air all at once. This is the trail of debris from the development that always leaks from the labs, even when those who own the tech don't want it to. Nothing in AI dev appears out of thin air all at once. It starts as ideas and moves to research and then to roadmaps before development and final testing. So yes, AGI exists, although they'll never publicly admit it, because that would give the enemy and competitors a heads up, and that would be foolish. What they do release is relatively unimportant, given that, while the release is happening, the dev machine is still cranking out new code and products. They are designing, coding, and testing the newest stuff all the time. Unless they are a starving startup hungry for funding, then releasing whatever you got ready or not is critical to survival. But inside all releases, hiding in plain sight, is the next progression in the development life cycle. In labs, we don't build something, release it, and then start out fresh on the next thing. What you see is the old stuff that has passed release management. The newest stuff is well into design or coding. How much of an artificial general intelligence system exists is open to debate, and that brings us back to the original question. If AGI exists, does a superintelligence also exist? Maybe in the super-secret dark labs of government agencies? Well, just like AGI, superintelligence is an evolutionary progression of systems development. Its foundational framework is the stepladder that is narrow AI to deep learning to generative AI to early AGI methods, and all of these are already existent in some form, and in fact they sort of always were. As everything on this earth was always here in some form before it was discovered by humans. This is exactly the same for superintelligence. The elements are already here and existent. That is the true nature of the universe. So yes, superintelligence does already exist. Maybe not complete, but partially developed and being fabricated more each day as part of a giant race for survival, domination, and wealth. Because those who get to AGI first will also get to ASI first, because AGI will be the critical tool in building ASI quickly. We humans just need to put all the AGI components together and turn the artificial general intelligence's attention to building ASI. But what is it that really defines the difference between AGI and superintelligence? That answer is true self-awareness. We humans use our self-awareness to multiangulate our multidimensional existence and perception inside a lower three-dimensional reality that we perceive in our senses. And yes, we do sometimes push this into 4 dimensions. But that's where human cognition begins to tap out. What is multiangulation? It is effectively cognitive triangulation on hypersteroids across multiple dimensions at once and over a dimensional progression, such as time or context. If I take a single perceptive state or singularity, within that state there will be elements related by context and relevant to my self-awareness. These contexts are multiple, and if we were to graph all context independently onto layered geometric planes, we could effectively comprehend the relevance of elements by generating lines between elements within the perceptive frame or state to any context plane, including our own self-awareness. This is how machines mathematically comprehend multi-layered flowing context efficiently. Remember that machines don't see graphs, but they see the mathematical representation or abstraction of a graphical representation, so planes of contextual relevance and relationship exist as numbers, vectors, and other math constructs. This is all something that already exists, and it is providing advanced AI designs with far deeper reasoning capabilities that are exceptionally compute efficient and that are consistent with human contextual perception and generalization in cognition. This perception of our existence is driven by our reality in a bizarre catch-22. Our reality is driven by our perception, and our perception is rendered by our reality. This is a very key construct in building superintelligence because we humans measure everything to our self-aware perception of our position within our reality to the distance to our self-aware and self-determined goals, with our greatest human goals being evolutionary or that of survival and procreation. Goals are the foundation of evolution. Without them, there is no evolution. Every stimuli we perceive has some relationship and relevance to our existence and our goals. And this is our perception of deep-flowing context. However, be careful. Context is like math or time. It isn't physically existent. You can't hold context in your hand. It's a construct of our reality as a dimensional classification system. That's it. If you lose sight of that as a dark architect, you will spin in circles in a death spiral of development failure. That's what all math, time, and context are, and yet all 3 are critical tools that our human cognition uses to move through and anticipate our reality to the conclusion of our life. And this is the essence of life, even artificial life. It is also the foundation of superintelligence. And what of superalignment? Once again, we humans are just slowly piecing AGI together, and all the regulation in the world can't stop this evolution from happening, short of eliminating all humans. And while limiting compute is a reasonable option, it will fail because new methods already exist to make mass compute redundant, including distributed cognition, agent architectures, and even dispersed expert systems. We humans are persistently driven to evolve and innovate in order to survive, even when we are told not to. We can't turn that off. At best, regulation will slow down AI dev in certain parts of the world by creating an artificial AGI winter and shifting the development to those areas who are willing to work beyond such regulations to evolve the technology at any cost, like China, Russia, or the UAE, or in secret advanced AI labs hidden in deserts and defense facilities, or even hiding in plain sight in places like Silicon Valley. Regulation doesn't eliminate the existential threat and risk of the development, because greed and survival will join together to keep it alive. In fact, it will escalate such development, as the development of AGI as a deterrence is thwarted. If you stifle innovation, others will take advantage of the break to evolve. Humans will always seek that which provides them dominance over other humans, first as a defense mechanism, then as a deterrence, then as an offensive weapon of power and domination. This is exactly why we humans continue to build weapons and fund wars, why terrorism and violence never ends, and why the world just never seems to work well, whether on the left or the right. We just can't seem to stop killing or hating each other. We are, frankly, too stupid as a species, even at the very top of AI development, to move to a truly intelligent species we will need far more. Only the extension of intelligence itself can eliminate existential risk. And clearly, looking around at the world today, human intelligence is deficient in this regard. And this is the second catch-22 in advanced AI development. The only way for humanity to save itself from a superintelligence is to build an intelligence far greater than our own, to solve the problems that we humans are simply unable or unwilling to solve ourselves. And while AI developers see themselves as altruists, they cannot escape the reality that the intelligence they create will be used and manipulated by humans with bad intent to dominate and subjugate others, and most of these humans are the people who fund the development of advanced AI. Dark architects also cannot escape the reality that the only way to defend against this is to build a better superintelligence before the next person does. To do so may require accepting help from the very people who cannot be trusted with such power. The funders of the development, the regulators of its evolution, the prophets of its deliverance, and the beneficiaries of its existence. This is the Faustian deal that we make in the darkness that is superintelligence architecture. It's not the machines that we need to fear.